Agit moed, agit yomtiv, brucham abom b'shem Hashem, igen sheter, the grace of covered megalponim, and the ganze choshev heilige oilam who came up. They know what chol hamoed is. They come up the steps. They climb up. Oile regel sein. Wie gesundheit, der ebische helfen, all simche. Es da genommen mit der simche von der yomtiv, a ganz jahr. The big kiddush Hashem, Yibach Hashem, the oilam is coming. Wie es soll sein, alle Gegenden of igen sheter, it's Borough Park, Williamsburg, Muncie, Lakewood, it's all 10 places. Thousands of Eden coming chol hamoed to shoot a Torah, and thousands of children coming in the morning. It was packed. 3 million of yeshivas chol hamoed and Sudas. Big Zikr Rabbim. Whoever wants to have a chelik with the Mamet Kiddush Hashem, please come to one of the Askanim of Eden Shir Torah or call us at 718-851-8651. Today's big Mamet Kiddush Hashem, as always, is Nidvas Yididenu, Rabbi Avram Spry, Ebe Shalom Benshim, Tasach Simcha, Gans Yor, Loicham Shalom Tevis. Now I have the covered discuss to call upon a Rav Agon, Rabbi Yakov Zev Smith, who gives Shurim Ibn Mesiris Nefesh every Sunday. The Olam is in the hand always, but chol hamoed we get a special treat. A Rav Agon, Rabbi Smith.
Everybody likes a new kasha. I'll tell you an old kasha with a new twist. But it's not a kasha, it's merapsin igra. Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol haleilos. Why is our galus in Tafshin Pei Gimel so different from any other galus that we ever experienced? And the erste kasha is, was there ever a door in history that it was so easy to learn Torah? That Torah was available and accessible at every language, in every level, in every venue. A person could be on business in the Orient, picks up a phone, he could connect to Kol HaTorah Kula literally. Not only we don't have the typical galus of Oim Naleinu L'Chaloseinu, that was always our fate in galus, but they protect our religious freedom. You think about the yoifi of the Heliga working Balei Batim, that are putting in 5-6 hours a day, learning Shas, knowing Shas, harving on Shas. Balabatim that are teaching Klal Yisrael a new niggin to the old words. Rechayim al tzavore v'yasik b'Torah, not b'tmiya, but b'simcha. Rechayim al tzavore v'yasik b'Torah. Was there ever such a yoifi in any of the galus that we were in? You think about the crown of our galus, the Bali Tshuva. My Rebbeim told me before the World War II, there was no musik of Bali Tshuva. And today we see thousands of Yidden that their every action is magas ad kisei hakavod. Think about the chesed that goes on in our door. Someone showed me a gemach directory list. Pages of every imaginable and unimaginable gemach. I think to myself, Rebbeim, where'd you get such children from? Smavel harayin. The creativity people have for chesed today is beyond belief. Ma nishtana halayla hazeh. Was there ever galus that Torah and Avodas Hashem is just so easy? The Sveita Kasha, maybe it's a bigger Kasha. Where is this yoifi taking place? Don't we remember that America, they said even the Stein is en treif? America was characterized as an Eretz Oicheles Yoishveha. How many pairs of tefillin and sheitlach and tzitzis in Hudson River, people came over on the boats and they threw everything in. And to see such a mapecha in America, the Dritte Kasha is, when is this all taking place? A little over 75 years ago, the Welt said Kaddish on Torah in America. And the intermarriage assimilation was horrifying. But the only hopes we had, the yeshivas, the Rosh Yeshiva from Europe, and Hitler came and destroyed and decimated the Olam HaYeshivas in Europe. The Yish in those days was unimaginable. I heard from a Yid, he used to come to the Shirgrada. He heard this from the Baal HaMaaseh that tells the Rosh Yeshiva, who had come to America right before the war to collect money. His family was left behind, they were killed. And he realized he has to be in America for years. He wanted to open a yeshiva. So he went into Goldman's Svarm store on the east side. That was the Svarm store, the only Svarm store. And he said, I want to buy K'tzais HaChayshin. So Mr. Goldman and Erlach Yid said, I think there's no more K'tzais in America. Maybe I have one, let me check. climbed up on a ladder, took down one that was full of dust, and he blew up the dust. Tells the Rashivas Mechubim with the letztik tzais to be sold in America. Tired eating how many thousands and thousands of tzais are sold annually in America in this Eretz Eicheles Yoshvel? And the truth is that was a realistic prediction. Who could imagine that Torah should blossom and explode like it is today? But the third kasha is, what else is happening in America in Tafshin Pei Gimel? Today is chol hamoed, it's Yom Tov. We don't want to think too much about this, but there's such an aliyah like there never was, and there's such a yerida. There's such a kedusha, rachmanatzon, there's such a tumah. There's such a or, and there's such a chayshich. 90+% of Yidden don't know Aleph Beis, rachmanatzon. It's almost an ain bias, asher ain sham. You can have a family of Heilig b'nei Torah, and one of their own, one of their brothers, one of their own children is nebuch wandering in the streets. One of those neshamas parachais bi'avir. The children at risk. Their problem is getting worse and worse. The family is singing Hashem b'Shabbos Abeinim and Bas by the Shabbos Suda, and one of the children is one of those that are in the streets. I had a cousin, a real Fayidike Erlich Yid. I once met him. He looked very sad. I goes, "Hey, what's the matter?" What do you mean, what's the matter? I was out of town in New Jersey, not far from Lakewood. I was by a mitzvah. No one's wearing a yarmulke. I was going to tell him, "Welcome to America." I thought, let me be more positive. I said, "No one's wearing a yarmulke?" "Yeah, there's one person wearing a yarmulke, the rabbi." I said, "No, so at least be happy." Because what do you mean? It's bad enough the rabbi's a lady, but she wears a yarmulke? We're not supposed to laugh, we're supposed to cry about the Elbon of Torah, about the mockery of Torah, about the Bezoyan of Torah that's not far from Ir ve'ein b'Yisrael Lakewood. And all this, the Aliyah and the Yerida, the Or and the Chayshich, the Kedusha and the Tumah, mamish coexists. Mamish neighbor azoi. What's the answer to our fair kashas? So the answer is where we find the answer to all of our kashas, and that's our Heilige Torah Kedosha. There's a zog from the Goyin. I'll tell you what I think the Goyin meant. But the Goyin said the following: there are 5 chumashim, Bereshis, Shmois, Vik, Midbar, Devarim. And the Goyin's cheshbon was the first 1,000 years of history we don't count, and then from the year 1,000 to 2,000 is corresponding Bereshis. 2,000 is Shmois. 3,000 Vayikra, Vamidbar, and the Elef Hashish that we're in is found in Chumash Devarim. Then the Goyin said there are 10 Parshiyos in Chumash Devarim because Nitzav Mayelech is one. Ad kan Devar V'Kedoshim Shel the Goyin. But if I understand them correctly, open a Chumash, open your eyes, open your heart, and you'll see exactly what we see today. And the answer to our fear kashas. And raise a pella. If you make a cheshbon that the Taf Shin, the Mispar of 1940, begins with Nisavim Vayelech. That's the parsha of Taf Shin. Taf Shin was a year that the Churban began, the Second World War began. And look at the beginning of Parsha Nitzavim, and you'll see the answer to our fear kashas. The Torah describes about a terrible nefila. Bacteria shikutzeyim, as giulehem, im yeshmem isha mishpacha yishevit. They'll go and they'll follow the Chasav and Leizov and the Goyim. L'yoiv Hashem s'loyach. The Baruch will not overlook it. V'vdila Hashem l'rom yikol shifti so mamish tof shin in all its horror. Gofris and melech streifa kol arza. V'omru kol hagoyim ha'me'osa Hashem kach. Even Goyim will wonder, where was the Jewish God? How did this happen to them? And even the Goyim will understand. V'omru al ozu es bris Hashem alekei avoisam. V'yelchu v'yavdu him acherim. The various isms that destroyed Kaisha right before the war. And then you see something that Mamish touches up the end of Mamish the war. Vayitchem al admosam bi'af uv'chem uv'ketzev gadol. Yidden lived in Europe in safety for hundreds of years. And come out, in no time, they were chased out. Vayashlichem al eretz acheres kayoim hazeh. They were thrown into the Treifa Medina, not expecting to be there. Isn't that tough shin and beyond? But after this horrific churban, you know what the next pasuk is? V'hoye ki voy alecha, all the brachas, v'shafta ad Hashem alekecha. The golden era of tshuva. Shemate b'koyloi b'chol asher noichi b'tzavcha yoim. And this is the period that I call v'richamecha. V'shav alekecha eshvuscha v'richamecha. Right after the churban shlei sorim avoseinu. V'shafta ad Hashem alekecha. The glorious world of tshuva. Imniya didacha b'ktzei hashemayim misham yikabetzcha. I met a Baal Tshuva. He said his family were assimilated for 7 generations, and now his Torah and his children's Torah are magas ad kisi hakavid. And then you can understand the pasuk that maybe until our times didn't make sense. There's a mitzvah, lo yinefleis, lo yerchoikel, lo b'shemayim, ki kor v'elecha davar hamoed, b'ficha b'vavcha l'asosai. Which mitzvah is so easy? So the Ramban and others say it's the mitzvah of tshuva. I don't know how people understood this when they learned it 150 years ago. Tshuva is easy. Changing one midah is a struggle. But to do tshuva and change a lifetime of habits, a lifetime of averis, every Baal Tshuva is a different story of incredible mesiras nefesh. They lived 20, 30, 40, 50 years doing anything they wanted, unrestricted, no kedusha, no tahara, no tznias, nothing. And mitamol, they change everything. And that's easy? Not some easy. And today there are tens of thousands of Eidim Ne'eman, an eloquent testimony. And Rashi Pshat, Kar v'lecha davar hamoed is going on Torah. Again, when I was growing up, I wouldn't say that wasn't 1,000 years ago. When I was growing up, they were Talmidei Chacham and they're working people. And today you see working people, Talmidei Chachamim, Gedolim, Muflagim. Today, Torah is accessible and available, and there's literally no excuse. And that's why we see this unprecedented siyata d'shmaya in our times, because as I stated in the Torah, and that's where the Baruch Shem wanted it to be in this Dar Achrein. I saw Rab Chatzkel, Zon Levrach, and Rav Dessler both say, because we have to prepare for Mashiach. And if we're running for our lives, working 14, 16 hours a day in sweatshops, that's not conducive for Aliyah. And the Baruch Shem is going to give us Ruchnius on a silver platter. Like never before. Everything is easy. Torah is easy. Chesed is easy. I was once walking with him, and he told me something very precious I won't ever forget. He said, I see something that I never saw in my life. And he told me these words, Heint oitzris velgezichen gas. He said, a person today does anything for Kvayt Shemayim, and he mamish has hatzlachish like derech hateva. There are moistis of chesed, of tzedakah, of learning. There are balabatim have koilim, and there's retirees that have the special koilim. He was referring to his Chiddush Nifla, the Shuvu organization. But he says, whatever you touch in Ruchni, there's guaranteed sight in the Shemaya. The oitzris velgezichen gas. Tahar Eden, isn't that true? Does anybody do anything that doesn't have sight in Shemaya that he couldn't believe? Think about our Daled Minim, the Hidurim that we have, our Tefillin, the quality of our mitzvahs. Never was in history like that. And then the next pasuk, the Baruch Shem pleads with us. And the Baruch Shem gives us a stern warning. You better be careful. If you can do Averis, ki avei toiveidun, lo yisarichen yomim al adama, vayt the chorbin. If we have this darsh that never was in history of such siyata d'shmaya, the Baruch Shem has to beg us and warn us. Uvacharta b'chaim, like the pasuk says. And Rashi said, like a father begging his son, please make a wise choice. How does it stem? We have the chayim and we have the toiv like never before. But when you look at the dar we're living in, do we need this? Shainemel, do we need this? How many percentage of Klal Yisrael made the choice of Maves and Ra? 90+% of Eden don't know they're Eden and don't want to know they're Eden. You know why? You know why it's like that? because that's the way it always has to be. Zeh le'um zeh, there has to be an equal balance, there has to be a bechira. Ramban in one of his letters writes, when he got there at Yisrael, he was overwhelmed. He said, there's so much tumah in Eretz Yisrael. There's so much kedusha, but there's so much tumah. And he writes, Ki rabba ahazuv ha'goy l'shemamayim, klolei shel dava, kol ha'mekudesh michaveiroi, chorav yoysa michaveiroi. Because at the end of the day, ruchnius always has to be our bechira. There has to be an equal balance. If it's going to be as easy as ever to do mitzvahs, it has to be as easy as ever to do averis. If oitzris of ruchnius velguns in the gas, then you can have oitzris of tumah, of nisyonis, of nefila, velguns in the gas. If you have a matzib that with a press of a button you could connect to Kol HaTorah Kula, you can have a world that with a press of a button, pardon me, you could connect to the Memtesh Shari Tumah and the Pischa Shel Gehenim all in one, with the same phone, with the same press. That's the door of Tavshin Pei Gimel. Exactly like the Torah said it's going to be. And you have to hear the Rebbe Shem crying, Ubacharta Bachayim. But you know what got me nervous? In Pasuk Gimel, in this Parashat Nitzavim, V'shav, the Kibetzcha, Mikol Ha'amim, and the support and others, that's the Zman of Kibbutz Golis of Geula. Look at the Pasuk, V'shavta ad Hashem Alikecha, U'shemata B'koiloi, K'chosh anoich mitzav chayoim, ata uvanecha b'chol levav v'chol nafshecha. A total change. Nebuch, we are so far from this total change. We're doing very well, Baruch Hashem. We have a lot to be proud of in our neighborhoods, and in Brooklyn, and in Lakewood, and in Muncie, and in Chicago, and Baltimore. All beautiful, beautiful ayaris of Torah. But what about the rest of the world? How can we expect the Geula if we're so far from this ata uvanecha? And it bothered me. You know, a Bacha once came to me and he said he looked traumatized. He said his friend went off the derech. He says, how could we expect the Geula? I felt good. He said, would it be a bazoyim for Mashiach to come in our times? Baruch Hashem doesn't know the full picture. But then I found something that was mamish kemayim karman nefesh hayefel. Mamish, like it was so relieving. The Chavetz Chaim wrote a Kuntres Epistle Yeshua, and in Perek Aleph he asked this kasha. He speaks about, in his times, how people are meyayish from the Geula, because let's be realistic. Look at the chamurais shebechamurais became jokes. We don't have that devotion to Torah mitzvahs. And one of his kasha, the Chavetz Chaim asks in Parashat Nitzavim, the Tanai of the Geula is that we're going to be people that change. But then the Chavetz Chaim learns up the pshat with his classic glattkeit and his gleichkeit and the way he's had a pashta avona, and he says, but it can't be that's the prerequisite of Yemois HaMashiach, because we all know the Mishnah Soif Saita describes the gruesome scene of Iksa the Mashiach, Chutz B'Yazgi, Ein Techaches, and the parents are disrespected by their children. And I don't want to talk about the ugliness of the end of Masechta Saita, but that's what we see in our times. So how could it be? Is it Masechta Saita? Is it Parashat Nitzavim? Sagt the Chavetz Chaim, Pshat Pshat, that's what he says. Shneyem emes. The B'achris Zman Geula yimtzu Shnei Sugi Anoshim, and Shneyem Ozru B'kirva Geula. Sagt the Chavetz Chaim, there's going to be a first group, the small group. I always consider us as the Ma'atim, B'yad Rabim. Heilige Yidden, like the Chavetz Chaim writes, that are going to be so devoted to Devar Hashem like never before. The Chiddush is, although the majority are so far, and the way he writes it, they're so busy with the eitzes of Taiva and Chemda and Shluchi HaYetza. He's talking about our door. Someone showed me, he broke my heart. He said on website there's a seminar, I don't know if you call that, but how to go off the derech, Rahman al-Litzlan. How to eat your first cheeseburger, your first Yom Kippur, your first Chil Shabbos, Rahman al-Litzlan. Yidden that did it are teaching others. Mamish meisisim madichem. Mamish, like the Chavetz Chaim writes, they're just spreading taivas and chem around the world. I don't want to talk more, but there's plenty of that on these websites. The Shmutz, the Lashon Hara, the Zilzal HaTorah, Zilzal Rabbanim. So to Chafetz Chaim, that's going to bring the Geula. Because the Ma'atim are not going to be spoiled from the Rabbim. It's like the old Chashmonai story, a few against the Rabbim. That to see such an afila, but there are people on fire, V'ani kirvas elikim li toiv. People that are on fire with kichoy les ahavani. Isn't that a pella? Don't those mi'atim deserve the geula? In spite of what's going on in the rest of the world, they are so devoted. You think about the Heintige Bacha. In a world of such nisyanis, the kedusha that a bacha that has today is like Saram Avoseiru. So many are into the worst things, and he's busy. Was meint Rashi, and what's up with Kivege's shot? Isn't that enough to bring the geula? To see Nashim devoted to tznius in a world that's gone insane? Isn't that enough to bring a geula? People that are living action yatzliach, like the Goyen used to say. I don't care what everybody does, what everybody says. My life is dictated by was will the Rebbeinu Shalom. Don't those ma'atim deserve the geula? Don't those ma'atim deserve ma'at or doicha harba min achoyshich? And everybody talks about what's the redifus, the government of Eretz Yisrael. Let's not talk about other Yidden. Let's talk about the Kol and Golite that have been choked financially and never stopped learning for one moment. Isn't that enough to bring the geula? In the Medina, pardon me, that halacha b'yidua Yaakov soine liYaakov Rachmana litzlan, and there's such avas HaTorah growing in Eretz Yisrael. Isn't that enough to justify a geula? The people that are devoted to the Heilig Chazinish's words, the oirei shelo emes, to the ad kidei mesiras nefesh in a world that's so meshukah in tumah. And that's the special schar that I consider the yesh schar lefulaseich, which brings the geula. It's interesting, the Medrash in the Psich of Eicha, Chav Dalid, when the Bershta wanted to destroy Eden, but together with the Beis HaMikdash, so in detail, Avram and Yitzchak and Yaakov and Moshe, and everybody came crying to the Bershta, don't do it, and the Bershta refused to accept their tefillos until Rachel came. And what was Rachel's taina? The Medrash, the Lashon is striking. Rebbeinu Shalom, when I was replaced by my sister, v'huksha alai hadova ad ma'oid. It was so hard to do the right thing, but I did it anyhow. So the Rebbeinu Shalom, oy bazoi, minik aleich mi beschi, ki yesh sechar lefulaseich, because of you, v'shavu vanam l'gvulam. V'ais techois mesiras nefesh, huksha alai hadova ad ma'oid, brings the yesh sechar lefulaseich, that brings the geula. And that's why the bigger the group is, with the bigger the feel of that group is, the bigger the kedusha and the lichtigkeit of us ma'atim is. And our ma'at or doicha harbim and achoyshech. And our mesiras nefesh for the oirei shelo emes in every detail of it. But you're probably wondering, dvarim harevim, it's good to hear, but could it be? Mashiach comes because of ma'atim? So I found kamat 3 or 4 rayas, beferish. The Medrash Shir Hashirim on the pasuk Kol Doidi Hine Zeba. It was time for the geula, and Yin said, "But Moshe, we don't deserve a geula. We're in deep trouble." Mem Teshari Tuma. So the Medrash says, Moshe told Yidden, "Hoil v'chafetz b'gulaschem, einay mabit masechem aroyim, u'mihu mabit b'tzadikim shebachem." The geula is always going to be Rabbi Miyad Ma'atim, the Ma'atim being Moisei Nefesh, going against a tide that's so much bigger than them. I think we all know the famous Zoya, a B'nai Knish Techoda, that's Mekabel, to be Zoya and Shmiras HaLoshin will bring the geula. Tana Debei Eliyahu Zut Perik Yudalid, Mavel Dik HaLoshin, if there are 10 Yidden, he says, that are learning Torah, that could bring a geula. And tied to the Pasik, Bahar Tzia and Tia Fleita, Vehem Kodesh. Yidden learning Torah. We underestimate, we sometimes forget about the sukkos of Torah. And Tana de Belial, which Rabbi Anna was Mekabel from Eliyahu Hanavi Zochel HaToiv, says if 10 Yidden are learning Torah, that's enough to bring the geula. But then I saw something that I think is really my message for today. The Medrash in Mishpatim, the end of Perik Lamed, says something so incredible. The Medrash has to lay to Ilulei Shadova Kosav Yev Shelo Oimrei. And the Medrash teaches the pasuk, we learn it by a tainis, Shimru Mishpat Vasu Tzedakah, ki kroiv Yeshu asi lavai. Zok the Medrash, again, Ilulei kasi yeshaloim, right? Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, im ein lachem sukkos, if you don't have a sukkos for geula, b'shvili ani oisa, kaviyachol kol yomim shatasham, ani imachem, shenema ima anoichi betzara, hevei, zok the Medrash weiter, afilu ein beyetcha maisim, oisa Kadosh Baruch Hu b'shvilai shenema ki kroivi Yeshu osi lavai. Kaviyachol, 1,000. The Rebbe needs a Yeshua because there's so much tum in the world. What is the secret of the Geula? Shimru mishpat vasu tzedakah. That's all you have to do. And then the Medrash adds, which again is my main point. Kach Yisrael ba'olam hazeh mihu oisa mitzvahs eini yodeya matan schara. It's our oldest problem. We don't realize the chshivas of our action. We don't realize who we are and what we could do and what we are doing. We think we don't make a difference, and we're right. We don't make a difference. We make all the difference. Because the ma'atim that Hashimru mishpa v'asu tzedakah makes all the difference. The problems of the Bari Olam by Yidden is you don't know the chshivas of your actions in a door of such chayshich. Then it goes weiter. Aval Olam haba, kishayiru ma'an schara shal ha-mitzvahs, heim tmeim, she'ein ha'olam kula yachal l'kabel es-haschar. It's almost neflois haboy. How could the Rebbe give us enough schar? But the Rebbe will do it. Don't worry. Zok the Medrash, and this is the point. Lekach nema ki kroiv Yeshu asi lavai. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, ani mevi esa Yeshua. Shenema l'Hashem Yeshua. Umishu oisa mishpat in these dark times. Ani koisiv alav shu mekarv esa Yeshua. Kaviyachol 1,000 times the Rebbe Shalom is writing the last chapter of history, and it's our Mesiras Nefesh for Kedusha, for Torah, for Tznius, for Kashrus, and everything else that today is being neglected by the overwhelming majority of Yidden. Shimru mishpa v'asu tzedakah. Ben Yoina teaches the pasuk we say in Tillim, Eis las Hashem efer Torah secha. Dr. Ben Yoina, it's in Perik Hey and Mishnah Beis of Avis. He first explains what does it mean. The Mishnah says that Avram was the only erlich and he took schar from everybody. How does that work? Dr. Ben Yoina, it's pashut. Because if no one's doing the right thing and you do it, you get schar for everybody. And I understood that's a new understanding of yesh schar lefulasech. If someone's that ma'atim biyad rab and he does it anyhow, he gets their schar. And then he adds, and that's pshat in the pasuk, Eis lasis l'Hashem eferes harisecha. If you see a door that's misrashel min ha-Torah, asoik ba, and that's the pashut of the pasuk. Eis lasis Hashem, you have to do what you have to do, bishvil, because it's a time of eferes harisecha. And listen to his mashal. Mashal l'melech shekol avodav boigdim boy. The Heilig Lashon ben Yaina. All of his servants rebelled. Chutz mi echad mem. There was one faithful servant. Obviously, haloi ba'oisas man tzarech aleches imoi bi'emes uvalev of shalom yishar zmanim. He has to be devoted like never before. V'gam ki kol yom of yavenu hamelech ava rabba v'serav masei zeh mi maseis kulam. He'll get unbelievable schar because he was the only evod neman. I wish I could say it's an exaggeration. Evod echad, that's all we are. One eved left. We think about the statistics and the percentages. The 1,000 that we have learning is basically a drop in the bucket. It's an evod echad compared to the 90 plus that don't know Tzuras Aleph Beis. Isn't that Parshas Nitzavim? The Rabbeinu Yoina, the Medrash in Mishpatim, the Medrash in Shir Hashirim, the Zohar Kodesh, just like the Chavetz Chaim wrote. But that's our problem. You know, we have to hear what the Navi told Shaul HaMelech. Shmuel told Shaul HaMelech, Im kotten ate beinecha, roi shifti Yisrael hata. You're not a kleinigkeit. You're the Eved Echad. Rabbi Yochanan Lubavitch used to say, how many gedolim we lost, how much koiches we lost, how many futures we lost because you don't hear the words of Shmuel saying, Alayim kot not to be necharoy, shift the Yisrael, you have an achrayis, you have koyches, you have potential. You know, there's a medrash in 3 different places. Obviously, it's an important message. It's in the Medrash in Bahar, in Rus, and it's also in the Yalkut in Bahar. K'she'adam oisa mitzvah, oisa b'leiv sameach. So in one place is leiv sameach, one place is leiv shalom, and the Yalkut says b'leiv shalom usameach. What's the raya? So Medrash has 3 rayas. Because if Reuven, Ilo hayadei Reuven, that the pasuk write about him, by Yishma Reuven yatzileu miyadam, he would have carried Reuven back to safety, not just made a little shtickle. He would have done it with simcha. Ilo hayadei boyas, that the pasuk writes, vayitzbat lakol, he gave Rus a little bit food, he would have given a golem putamais. A third one, that's Taka the Medrash in Bahar. That when Moshe was riding the godless, Aaron not only was not jealous but was happy, he would have gone out to greet him, but tupmu mechaylis. And the Medrash concludes, therefore, realize when a person did a mitzvah in the olden days, the Torah wrote about it. But achshav, who's writing it? Elio Kaisva Umelach HaMashiach HaKadosh Baruch Chaisam HaYadeyim. And that's what Oz Nidbu Isha Riyeh V'Yakshva Hashem V'Yishma V'Yikasei B'Seifa for the Dar Achrim. And it always bothered me, 3 Gedolei Olam, and no one could figure it out. Each is guilty of Ilu HaYadeya. I mean, doesn't anybody know what's going on? But Libi Oimeli, that's the Nisayon of Golus. A person underestimates what he's doing. He thinks, what am I doing? I'm out of Rashba, I'm very far from Rabbi Akiva Eiger, and therefore what? But he's the Evad Echad in this door. He's the Ma'at Or, and he's the one that Baruch is saying, you brought the Geula. But he's suffering from the Katan Be'inecha syndrome. He doesn't know the Baruch is writing what we're doing right now, the Torah, and the Avoid, and the Chesed, and the Mesiras Nefesh, for every shred of Kedusha. Isn't it obvious we're living in a world that's one ugly Hefeiru Torah Secha? And our Tachlis is Eis Laseis Lashem? A person has to be deaf, not to hear the Iksa of the Mashiach. And Al Masoira, Rav Vosner writes this in a beautiful tshuva in the first tshuva in Chelik Yud. We don't say when Mashiach's coming, and we don't know these things. This Mufaz Machal Tidrash. But one thing is our Masoira is Tzipisah Yeshua. And we have to realize that we have to prepare. Rav Moshe Tshuva, Chelik Hey, Siman Ches, Avru Kol HaKitzim She'amru Af Gedolei Olam. Chavis Chaim already wrote, Rabbi Chonon, Rabbi Chatzkel Levenstein, Rabbi Yilach Pian I saw, Rabbi Despler wrote that we're holding Iksa the Mashiach. Rav Moshe, 30 years later, added, now they were Zicha in the Iksa the Mashiach. But you know something? A friend of mine gave me a printout, not a Jewish source, of all the extraordinary occurrences that happened in a few years. Beginning with the incredible collapse of the Soviet Union, that Malchus HaRashah, that intimidated the world for generations. And all of a sudden, like a mamash ka'oshan tichla kisavim memshalas, the collapse of the Soviet Union. And I'm not saying in any order, but you think about 9/11 and tsunamis and earthquakes, and one after the other, what's going on in Ukraine today, and Russia, and America, and the recession, and now, it's just unbelievable. And even the Goyim understand that there's something supernatural taking place in history. You know, Chavis Chaim used to say, you walk into a city, and it looks bedlam, mabish chaos. People are running and going and coming and going. So you're not nervous. You know why? Because it's probably Erev Shabbos, Otot is Shabbos, and he's going to the mikveh, and he's running to shul, and he has to bring something to his mother. So you're running to Chaparain, it's Otot Shabbos. So the Chavetz Chaim said this over 100 years ago. You're going to soon see a time that things happen so quickly. Everybody's running. The world is turning over. Because it's Erev Shabbos of Yom Shekulei Shabbos. And the Baruch Shalom wants to make a Tosefes Shabbos that we're going to remember. And we're going to begin Makabel Shabbos early. And the Baruch Shalom has to expedite all the occurrences of this world. That's our Messiah. It's a plea. that there's so much happening in this world. You just have to think about Russia and Ukraine, out of nowhere. Today we have a mission of chayvasoi ba'olam. The Heilige Werte of Mesilas Yesharim has a whole new meaning. We are the Eved Echad. We have to live. Hey, Eis Lasid Lashem. And Shamru Mishba Vasu Tzedakah is going to bring the Geula. Rabbi Yochanan Levovitz has one of his shmuz in Chelik Beis in Maimah Peites. He writes, Margal Befum, we say this all the time, a davar that's Ikka v'ar gadol, something that it's so important, a person does not think about it. The Yetzer Hara has such a cunning way of doing things that he keeps us busy, the way he writes it, mit abendel. He throws a mitzvah at you, keep it busy. But don't think about Ikrei Ikrim. That's all he writes. By me, it's Borer that he's talking to our door. We have so much to be proud about. We went through the yontif of sukkos, preparing for sukkos. I mean, people put in harvanya and dalad minim, building a sukkah, the Yom Kippur, the Heibenkite. Those are only 2 of the mitzvahs, 3 of the mitzvahs. But we have to be thinking about ourselves, about Taryag mitzvahs. That if I would really believe that I'm going to bring the Geula and my actions make all the difference, I wouldn't just be worried about a Sheina Esrik, I'd be worried about a Sheina Yid. I want to be a Sheina Yid. And maybe yesterday I didn't, but now this is the time of my Achshav Emasai. He keeps us busy with Beindlach, which is very nice. But if we know that we could be Makar of the Geula, I once said, I think it's the Emes Pshat, the Gemara in Shabbos Lamed Aleph, so we live our life, so we have to answer, we have to get a Feheref Yenevelt. And there are basically 4 questions. There's 6, but really 2 of them are part of Kvatitim LaTorah. Kvatitim LaTorah, Asakte Piravirivya, Tzipisa Yeshua, and Sastate Bemuna. And again, Papalt Bechachma and Chach, that's included in Torah. That's where most poskim learn. So I understand that Nesas and Sastate Bemuna is a Yid's his existence. He has to be Erlich from the day he's born till the day he dies. You have to be Erlich, not after worker. You have to be with neighbors, with a storekeeper. So that's a lifetime job. Limud HaTorah, Kiyem Chayenu, that's a lifetime job. Asakte Puravu, raising families, Amalenu El Habonim. Why is Tzipisa Yeshua one of the 4 questions? It's a wonderful thing, but that's mamish from the 4 ikrim of a person's life. I'll tell you a true story. He told me that he was once, just a little while ago, he was offered to join a partnership in a business that was going to put him in a totally different financial bracket. I mean, he's talking about the fabulously wealthy. It was almost guaranteed to give him millions more per year. And he told me, I told the people, I have to think about it. They said, what are you thinking about it? It's guaranteed. I want to think about it. The next day he said, I am declining the offer. Thank you, I'm not getting involved. And they asked him point blank, did you lose your mind? I'm like, why not? So he said, there's too much going on in the world we're living in. They're talking, the Chaim Kanievsky was talking about Mashiach. I have enough to live on. I'd rather use my time preparing for Mashiach. 10 years ago, maybe he wouldn't have made that decision. But he's living Tzipisa Yeshua. And he's putting it Lamaisa. Tzipisa is not just, which is enough, 5 brachas in 3 Shemon Esrei a day. And if you hold Goel Yisrael, so it's 6. But 5 brachas in Shemon Esrei a day, we daven for the Geula. But Tzipisa Yeshua changes our way of looking at things and gives us guidance in making decisions. What's important, what's not important, what might have been important now is not important, making money is not important. What the Chavetz Chaim writes, what's important is the Barim say, are you the one that brought the Geula or delayed the Geula? That's important in our times. Imagine, I sometimes think about this. How many people, when they hear Mashiach is coming, will run home and finally write those checks for tzedakah? They kept on pushing off. That's too tzedakah, but now they're going to chaperayim. Maybe it's too late. How many people will run out and throw out a phone they have in their pocket they shouldn't have because I'm embarrassed Mashiach could catch me with that? How many people would change, women would change their sheitel or their dress? I can't greet Mashiach like this. That's living Tzipisa Yeshua. And the schar of that, Bahai Alma, is unfathomable. It's a whole different way of living. It's a person living with bearing, living with the ikrei that people don't think about. I used to wonder, the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Daf Tzadik Ches, What are you supposed to do? And you live in these trying times. That's a plea. Had it said, start saying Tikkun Chatzos, Sukkos, Bahab, or get up of a Sikin, no, I understand. Torah and Chesed always was the hamoed olam. I always learned Torah. This Yid taught Mishat in the Gemara also. He was learning Torah now because he had both eyes on the Geula. And he's realizing his Torah makes all the difference. And he made a decision that people thought he lost his mind. But I have to be Isaac b'Torah, like it passes in a time of like this time. Again, we don't talk about when the Geula will be. We don't know. But I'll tell you something. Rabbi Aaron has a Kabbalah going back to the Goyin. Trace the whole Messiah. The Mechembe's Goy Gemag will take 3 minutes. Now, when the Goyin said it defied explanation. They used to, at most, they had pistols. Wars took years. And today, the world is sittering from just a war of 3 minutes. How many Meshugayim have buttons that could destroy your world in less than 3 minutes? 3 minutes. The Medrash says that Bnei Yishmael will be the big threat in Yemois Mashiach. Arabs, third world country, backward country. Today, who's not sitting from Iran with his 3-minute war? He swore to me that he has a non-Jewish acquaintance in business who said the problems we face today are so severe, even we are saying the only hope is the Jewish Messiah. We're living in Ma'yasav Yanotzel. And our avodah has to be Yasik B'Terg Mils Chasodim. You can have a person, he's not so good in Shmiras Halosha. Nebuch, he's Nichshel Amo. But Erev Yom Kippur, no. That he wouldn't do. You don't see Lashon Erev Yom Kippur, right? We have to start living that it's Erev Geula. When the Geula will be, I don't know. And that's not our Masorah to say when. But to live, it's Erev Geula. And make decisions that are appropriate for such a special times. I once gave a mashal. Imagine an older couple, they married up all the children. They get a phone call from their oldest daughter in Eretz Yisrael. They're coming with the family for Pesach. And the mother says, starts to see how pressure goes up high. She has 16 new nefashos, 14 kids, children. When are you coming? I don't know. Either in 2 weeks or in 8 weeks. We're not sure, depending on tickets and a chasr. And now the mother almost passes out. And she's panicky. So the husband says, what's your problem? Start tomorrow and work slowly at your own pace. Clean one room at a time. Make food. You could freeze the food. It doesn't get spoiled. Clean rooms don't get spoiled. Work every day at your own pace. And whether they come 4 weeks or 8 weeks, what does it make a difference when they come? Do it at your leisure. There's enough time. You have to know when they're coming. Even that are living hikoin likras elikecha Yisrael, we don't have to know when Mashiach comes. We have to know, we have to prepare, because chusim don't need the freezer, and chusim don't deteriorate. We put in a seder learning that we're living Yasik B'Torah, that lasts. And the Baruch is writing that in the last chapter of our history. But we're victims of the Ilu HaYodeya. Chavetz Chaim is Chor Lemir, which you should see it inside. And Perikut Ches says, we're not expected to do the impossible. We have to do the best of our ability. That's our hika in the cross of Lekecha Yisrael. But that's the cunning Yetzer Hara. He robs us of our greatest chizuk, and that is living tzipisa Yeshua. And I'm being very careful, but I want to say another point that bothers me. Lately we see an even more devastating Ma'aseh Yetzer. As if the word Mashiach, it depends from where you come from. I'm almost afraid to say the word Mashiach. But a certain affiliation, a certain group. Insanity. Mashiach, it's a piece of Yeshua. That's the kishkas of a Yid. 5 or 6 brachas 3 times a day. It's all about the Geula. But it became, people are afraid to talk about it. But we're going to talk about it because this is our tachlis. And this is the ikrim that we have to live with, and we'll steig from it. If we live a little bit of the Yasik B'Torah attitude, a little bit of the piece of the Yeshua attitude, it will impact our lives. I was walking with a Yid. He says, I see these mansions, people building these mansions. What are they going to do when Mashiach comes? I said, that's not the problem. What are they doing today? Are they thinking about Mashiach when they're building a mansion that they hail the Netzach Litzachim, like the Shlach Kodesh writes? Ger v'soyshev anochi yimachem, if you're busy building a mansion, do you have time to think about the Bari Olam? The greatest chizuk is we live peacefully Yeshua, and the Yitzhara robbed that of us. Chofetz Chaim writes at the end of Tzpisli Yeshua, Kol ish yishar leiv lizboinen ma'yeh k'sheyavim Mashiach tzidkeinu mi zi oz l'shem l'tehila l'teferes mi oz ha'mu'usha sheba'adam. Those that went on the derech of the Bnei Shalom. That's our attitude. That's living to peacefully Yeshua. When he comes, it's not Nikeya. It's living with an awareness that this is part of the ikka part of our Amunah. And Bambis, it's Pashut. That's why we have Nisyonis, Shalai Sarm Aviseinu. The Zela Zeh is incredible. The phone that connects the Kol Kula could connect to the biggest Tumah. The Oitzris of Kedusha and Tumah are in the same streets. A Bacha came to me at the end of the summer. Tyre Bacha. I wouldn't believe what he told me. But Bekitz, he told me that his parents had an internet at home without a filter. And 2 periods of his life he did the worst of errors, and he's devastated. He can't get back to himself. How does he forgive his parents? So I don't think that was a proper question. Forgiving, is he blaming them? But he wanted to know, how do I respect my parents? They kept something in the house that everybody knows is wrong, and they destroyed me. So I tried to explain to him, and I gave him a whole speech. He calls me Erev Yom Kippur again. I still can't forgive my parents. I can't respect my parents. And I didn't know what to answer him. Don't we know this is our Nisayan? Just like the Pasuk says, there's going to be a Tumah Shalei Sar Ma'aviseinu, and we have to rise to the occasion and realize this is our enemy. I'm not that type, the internet type, but I see from Bacham, I can't believe it. The Nisyanis that they have is Ein L'Shaya. Bacham told me his parents, Bashita, don't hold him in of filters. I'm teaching them how to be a mensch. Hey, but Kol HaTorah. But you know why there's a Klal Yisrael today? Our Elter Zaydas lived, when I say these words, Ein Breira. There's no choice. I came to America, my Zayda, came to America, he didn't have what to eat. But there's no choice of Michal Shabbos, and that's why he had a Mishpacha Mefuara. Ein Breira. Kashrus, I'll get kashrus. Chol Yisrael, I'll go to the farm. My Baba went to the farm, she made her own Chol Yisrael. I mean, a Yid's living Ein Breira, there's no choice. And today, that clever Yetzir, that Melech Zok and Exil says, Ein Breira, I must have all the Nisyanis for business. Pull a plane. He made a ganze Nahapachu, I must have it. We don't read the message that fakert, you have to live Ein Breira, and I won't do what I'm not supposed to do, no matter how hard it is. I told this person with the sheet, as was tut minish for kinder, do it for your children's sake. But it became a time that the Ein Breira is working against us. Now, one of the saddest part of the World War II, there were probably hundreds, Rahman al-Islam, that went through 5 years of the concentration camps, 5 years of Gates Halmavis, and they survived. The last moments before liberation, when the Nazis escaped, the Allies had not yet entered the camps, and Yidden that starved for 5 years realized the kitchen was just empty from people, full of food, and there was no one watching. Rahman al-Islam, they went to eat, they didn't know how to eat. And they ate themselves to death, Rahman al-Islam. Imagine how tragic. 5 years of living Gates HaMaves, and a person ate a little too quickly, and he lost his life. Pardon me for saying this, but that's our Golos. Vayishman Yeshua and Vayivat. We have such bracha. We went through almost 2,000 years of Eicha. Harugam Hashem Kachecha, Tvucham Ayichudecha, Boi Beish V'ayim HaKiddush Shemecha. And now we have the biggest bracha in history. And we fall victim to Vayishman, Yeshua, and Vayivat, overeating in Gashmias. That's the end of an Itzavim. You go into Hazinu, and there it is. We survived 2,000 years of Ein Breira, and now we're losing it. Ikrei Ikrim is, we have to live Ein Breira for Kedusha. I talked to Tyre Yeshiva Bachrim. Listen to me, I know what I'm talking about. Bachma, why don't we have enough Geshmak in learning? Why don't we have that? Why don't we feel Kiheim Chayenu, Ashemi Shemali B'Torah? Because if you're connected to everything but the Torah, I'm not talking about a treifa phone, I'm not talking about a kosher phone, but why should a Bach have a phone during his man? He's connected to everything. And he wants to, why don't I have a geschmack in learning? Why don't I see the disease kite? Do you give it a chance? We need today what we said about Rabbi Akiva and the Kinnis. Ashrecha Rabbi Akiva shegufach tor b'chol minei tahara. Today more than ever we have to rise to the occasion and keep our Torah b'kedusha of tahara. But for the life of me, I don't understand why it's such an nisayon. To lig in learning and have something else that's connecting you to all over is not ligging and learning. Chaim Volozhiner once said after davening, out of nowhere, these are the words they say, he said, America wird sein die letzte Stanzia für Torah in Golus. The last station for Torah in Golus. And when he said that, there probably wasn't a million of Frumma Yidden in ganz America. And that's what he said. And then he started crying. He said, Rebbe, was weinst du? Was it sein asach karbonis? That's what we have a Kabbalah. Today we see the letzte Stanzia, the most glorious Olam HaTorah that never was. And never we see the Kabbanis. Because we don't realize the Ikrim is, we have to realize that that's our Nisayan. Not to allow our bracha to become our klala. Rapam once said, very uncharacteristic of him, but he mentioned the pasuk in Shmuel Aleph, Perek Chav Beis, pasuk Yud Ches. When Shaul thought they were going to assassinate him, he was very upset. Why don't you tell me that someone's out to kill me? And then he added, Ve'ein choyla mikem olai. It doesn't bother you that your king, your beloved king, is in such trouble? It doesn't make you sick? So Shaul understood, if you love your king and you see he's in trouble, it has to bother you. And the Rapam said, when Mashiach's going to come, the Baruch is going to ask his balipta, B'nai Ali, his B'nai Torah, did it bother you? The K'vayat Torah that was in the Shval HaMatzavim? Did it bother you that 90+% of Yidden don't know they're Yidden? What's going on? I don't want to talk about it chol hamoed, but does it bother you, the falsification of Torah? So what am I supposed to do? Get sick? Chas v'shalom. Shimru mishba v'asu tzedakah with a mesiras nefesh. Do what we're doing with a vision of the ikrim that is up to us. Ein adav atoli alabi. Today more than ever we have to learn live with the words of the Heilige Nefesh HaChaim in Shar Aleph in Perek Dalid. Kol ish mi Yisrael al yoyma beliba chas v'shalom ki ma'ani u'ma koichi lifal b'maisai hashvolim. What am I? Shum inyan shabbat. What could I do? Omnam yavin v'yeda v'yikva machshavez libay shekol protei maisa v'dibura u'machshavoisav kol eis v'regel lo yisavdu chas v'shalom u'marabu maisav u'ma'oid godlu v'ramzu. Kol ois, every word of his Torah is kodesh hakadosh v'bari yolam. If we live with a little bit gaiva, not the pusta guy, but the gaiva, the kedusha, the vayigba li by bedarchei Hashem, that it's all up to me, then we do things differently. Rav Rebbe Zechariah Levracha spent many years with Rav Chatzkel. And he says, without doubt, the greatest inspiration that he had from Rav Chatzkel was by Anil Sachag in Panovich on Shavuos. Then it was the Oibanon was the Panovich Rav, and Rav Shach, and Rav David Pravarsky, and Rav Shmuel Rozovsky. But the center was Rav Chatzkel. He was the speaker, he was the crown of the yeshiva. And they were singing the Gurim with Regesh, with hearts about Torah. And the seat was there, Rav Chatzkel wasn't there yet. And suddenly Rav Chatzkel came in, everybody stood up, of course, he carries a medrash, they didn't talk about a medrash. And they kept on singing. And they noticed that Rav Chatzkel did something he never did. He started showing emotions. Rav Chatzkel was a kelma. Kelma, you control of your emotions. You see something funny, you don't laugh. You see something srauchus, you don't chuckle. You have to know how to control yourself. And this was different. Rav Chatzkel was showing emotion. He was chuckling back and forth. Mamish, it was a kasha gedoyla. And they kept on singing, he kept on chuckling. They were afraid to stop. But then someone said, shh. And Rav Chatzkel, a dramatic statement, left the medrash on the table, and he got up to speak. Obviously, he's making a whole different speech. And he starts saying, as he's talking to himself, as if he's mesmerized, Nish Pashat, Nish Pashat, Nish Pashat. And they don't know what happened. First, he's chuckling, showing emotions. Then he puts down the medrash, he's not making a speech, so Nish Pashat, like, what's he talking about? And he started saying, Bochum is a nishpash, what's going on here? And he said the following. In Malachim Aleph, Perek Yud Ches, you learn about the showdown between Eliyahu, Bahar Carmel, and the Nevi Abal. And they decided they're going to have two oxen. They'll shech them both, and we'll see Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. So Rashi quotes the Medrash that the ox that was designated for the Baal refused to go. I should be shechted or desert, and refused to go. Eliyahu begged him, you're going to be part of a Kiddush Hashem. So the pasuk says that they took, Vayikchu es apar, the Nevi Abal took the par, asher nasan lahem. So the kasha is, of course, if he gave it to you, take it. So Chaskel said, even after the ox was explained to the ox that it's being part of Kiddush Hashem, refused to go. And then he said these words, these heilige Wörter. I feel that ox hat verstanden, but Sach Menschen verstehen it. Even the ox understood what so many people don't understand, that a person has to know, I don't want to have a shaykhs to a makava of tumah. I want to have a shaykhs to a makava of kedusha. Der ox hat verstanden, but Sach verstehen it. That a person has to have a drive and a tshuka and a cheshik to be a merkava for kedusha. And then he said, in a welt von azak kfir and azak tumah, to see b'nei Torah, to have such a tshuka and such a cheshik, to live ki heim chayenu, to live Hashem Yishem Ola b'Torah, it's a nit poshit. I said, no, it's a nit poshit, badaf verstehen as a nit poshit. What would he say today? How nish poshit it is. We chashmonoyim in a world that has gone insane, that is less. Every bit of kedusha has become a litzanis Rahman litzlan. The Rogachover said a hesped on the Or Sameach. They were together Rabbanim in Dvinsk. So he said that the Or Sameach was B'teva, a very weak person, very frail, but he did nefloyis gedolos. How? So Rogachover explained. You do it. There are stories that mamish happened. There was a fire burning, and a piece of furniture fell down and blocked the door. And a mother had to escape with a child, and she picked up the furniture, picked up the shvarm shank that she could never do, and she moved it. But a fire brand, a person could do anything. So the Rabbi Yakov said, der Semeach was a weak, sickly person. But he saw that the world is on fire. Und by fire brand, we could do anything. The world's on fire with Hefei Torah Secha. And we have to be those chashmonoim that are energized by a fire brand. Shimru Mishmavat Tzedakah has to be the guiding force of our lives. To live Erev Geuladik, to be a little more or, because I don't have no shaykhs to the makav of kfira. You know, the famous Gemara in the end of Makis about the Tanoim, Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Shua, Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, and Rabbi Kiva, and Rabbi Kiva saw the Churban. And they were crying, and Rabbi Kiva was laughing. They asked him, why are you laughing? Don't you see Geula? Don't you see Churban? So Rabbi Kiva said the famous teretz, he saw Geula. By me is Bor, that if they would see the world today, Sai Rabbi Gamliel, and Sai Belazar ben Azariah, and Saya B'Shua would be laughing. Don't you see that this is the time that we're waiting for? Our elders cried their eyes out, and our eyes will see that. Don't you see, can't you see that this is the Ikrei Ikrim? But that's our problem. The Yitzhar just blinds us and sees what's so obvious. And let me leave you with one more machshava maybe, but I think it's more than a machshava. The Rabbi Rucham has a shtickle in Parsha Shlach. It should be required reading. And he said the following, that we all await Mashiach, and we are convinced, Dr. Rabbi Rucham, that Mashiach is going to be at least a Rabbi Kiva Eiger. If not a Rabbi Kiva Eiger, at least. But it's not true. Mashiach comes from our door. So, Frank Rabbi Rucham, how could it be? Mashiach from our door? This door Yosem? So, Lufi, what I understood Rabbi Rucham, he means to say that the Oirei Shel Melech HaMashiach is a special or. It's an or that's a product of Choshech. The more Choshech there is, the more Choshech is able to produce an or gadol. The Dar Rabbi Akiva Eiga, there was so much lichtigkeit, but there was no choshech that was enough to produce an Oirish Shel Melech HaMashiach. And then he said, Bachrim, this you could look inside. He says, we harva to understand the Rishon, what the Rashba means. And sometimes we just don't understand. We go weiter. What could I do? My verstoppt the cup doesn't know what the Rashba meant. But I tell you, he says, you're bigger than the Rashba. Because you learn in a time of such choshech. I don't know what the choshech was in the Mir Yeshiva in the 1930s. The Rashba learned in a dar day. You learn a dar choshech. And one krechts, he said, that we make is worth pi kama of what the Rashba did. So the one that reprinted this quotes that this is exactly the yesod of the Ari HaKadosh. Reb Chaim Vital finally had the courage to ask his Rebbe, why do you always tell me about my gross in the Neshama? I know myself. So he quoted what the Ari HaKadosh told him by a door that the klipa goiveres ma'oid ad ein kates. In such a door, any little bit is worth pi kam of the previous generations. Because gadlus hanefesh ain't tluik v'maisa adam rak if he has man. Gadlus is not by what you do; it's where you in what door you're living in. And therefore, there is a Torah Chaim. You're living in our door. That klipa goiveres ma'oid ad ein kates. You have an neshama ilah. Now I don't know what the Arizal was talking about. I say for a vitz, the Arizal was the Rebbe of Tzfas, and the Beis Yosef was the Rav and the Paisik, and the Shlomo Alkmus was the Chazin, and the Charedim was the Shamish, a Dardei that we can't imagine. But Arizal saw that klipa goiveres ma'oid ad ein kates. And what would he say today in America? How much one krach, how much one tear for the Ratzon Hashem is worth by the Bari Olam? And then Rabbi Yerucham continued, and he says, I would tell you more, but I don't want to make you Bali Gaiva. But I will tell you more, and I want to make you Bali Gaiva. We have to hear this Ikrei Ikrim, that we have to be on fire by Yigbal Li by B'darchei Hashem. Because it's so obvious that this is what's going to bring the Geula. It's our Ma'at Or. It's our Or Shel Emes. Because at the end of the day, we don't understand this. But that's the Emes. The more Chayshech, the more Or we could produce. I think we all know the famous Yalkut, that Mashiach would come, he'll go on top of a roof and say, Anovim Igiyaz Man Gulaschem, Ve'im Einatem Aminim, Ru'u Ba'oirish Shezareyach. So it's really a plea. If Mashiach comes, who wouldn't believe it? I don't believe it. If we don't believe Mashiach, so we're kaif, not a novim. What a novim? And what does it mean? Ru'u ba'oirish shezareyach? By me is bar the pshat is pashut. Pardon me for asking. If we would hear right now Mashiach came, would we believe it? I'm not going to be Mashiach 100%. But our dar today, Tavshin Pei Gimel, wake up and smell the coffee. You know what's going on in this world? And Mashiach will say, Anovim, you underestimated your Or. You had so much Chayshach, it's only you that can make the Or Gadol. It's only the Ma'at Or that can make the Or Gadol of Mashiach. Not the Rashba, not Rabbi Akiva, not the Rabbi Akiva. Of course we believe. Anovim, we lack that confidence. We lack that Amunah Ba'atmei. That Vayigbal Li B'darchei Hashem. Ve'im einatem aminim, you don't believe it. Ru ba'oiri. Look at how much ma'at or you created. Look at the or shall emet you by nefesh. That's what this dar could do, no other dar could do. But then there's always the problem. We underestimate ourselves. The cotton beinecha, the v'niyah b'einu kachagavim syndrome that we have. We have to go with a guy with the kedusha. And let me just close with this plea. If someone will ask you, what did he speak about today? Let me tell you exactly what he spoke about today. He didn't speak about Mashiach or the Geula. He spoke about me and you and us. We have to realize this ikrim of Avodas Hashem is, we have to believe in ourselves. That we are the Ma'at Or, that hopefully we're zoichet to see Re'u B'Oirish Azayreach, we're zoichet to see the Geula Shlema. Amen v'amen.
Amen. Shkoyach. We want to thank our Rabbi Yakov Zev Smith for the gewaldige Or he put into us to be Vayikbari V'dak Hashem. Also like to thank Rabbi Avram Eliyahu Spry for being manad of today's Mohammed Kiddush Hashem, Big Zika Arabim. Whoever wants to help the Ignition Torah sponsor Shum around the world, please call Ignition Torah 718-851-8651 or email to ist@yeshivanet.com. Rabbi said the next year is in 10 minutes. Sharos and Shuvas, Dalat Chakis Shechanoch, Skvere Dain, Rav Steinmetz Shlita. Abraham Kashem, Rotkosh Baruch Zag, so fig Rebelum to mit Shnam and Khovs Met Sitka, Yagdil Torah v'Yadei Kaddish. Amen. Amen.